So what do you call a game released in 2003 exclusively for the Nintendo GameCube that if you wanted to play multiplayer, you had to have a bunch of extra Game Boy Advances along with Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cables lying around?
What do you call it?
Yeah.
Is this like a joke, set up to a joke?
Kinda.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Yeah. So this game is going to be remade for both the remastered. We need to get our terms correct here. Remastered for the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch. So go ahead and buy the Switch version because then you get a handheld version too, along with the home version. Aside from that, though, it's getting remade, remastered. I keep doing that. It's getting remastered. This game was kind of an oddity because it was the first game, Final Fantasy game released for a Nintendo system in a long time. We had Final Fantasy, as far as the states go, we got Final Fantasy, the original for the NES. Then 2 came out for the Super NES, which was actually 4 in Japan. Then we got 3 released for the Super NES, which was actually 6 in Japan.
What? They were just cranking them out in Japan on like the Famicom, I guess?
Yeah, the original Famicom had 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 came out on the Super.
And then they eventually brought those over, right?
They did, yeah. We now have them, and we now have them with the appropriate number, scheming, and all that. But when they were developing 7, which has never had a different numbering, it didn't come out as like 4 here. When 7 came out, they released it for the Sony PlayStation, and that was the big split between Square and Nintendo. And for years, they didn't have any Final Fantasy games on Nintendo platforms. And then, early 2000s started. They started porting Final Fantasy games to the Game Boy Advance. They were doing like I think they did 1 through 6 minus 3. Mm-hmm. Not getting into math here. Just they did 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And then 3 they actually remade for the Nintendo DS. And it was strange. It was kind of like Nintendo for Nintendo. Mostly they were doing only the older Final Fantasy, like pre-7 games. And then we had this odd game, Crystal Chronicles. Like I said, it was multiplayer, if you wanted it to be. Kind of like a top-down dungeon crawler, Gauntlet Legends style kind of game. Up to 4 people could play. But if you wanted to play with 4 people, everyone had to have a Game Boy Advance and a link cable. I actually have both of those. I could have shown for visual aid here, but poor planning on my part.
Flash it on the screen. Not really. We don't.
we could do that. Just we didn't prepare for it. But so it was weird, and this was among other games that came out for the GameCube where you had to have this. Like I think Zelda 4 Swords Adventure was the same thing where you had to have Game Boy Advances.
How does it even work? Like multiplayer in an RPG? What?
Well, it's not like you can actually move around during combat. Like the combat was real time, and you ran
so they're
around
just like
and attacked.
The other players are like fighting with you, I guess.
Yeah, it was more. I don't know about this game specifically, but I want to say that it was more like almost like a beat 'em up, but with RPG elements.
Like a support character, like who does like healing and like stuff like that, kind of.
Yeah, and you just have like different buttons mapped to specific functions rather than going through a menu. Probably. Yeah. I haven't actually played this game, but I thought it was kind of neat that it's coming to PS4 and the Switch. And honestly, a lot of people talk about the Switch, obviously, because it's so popular. But a lot of the naysayers for the Nintendo Switch say, it's underpowered. You're not going to get... just wait a couple of years and you're not going to have the same releases come out for the Switch that you're going to come out for the Xbox One and PS4. And I don't think anyone's actually expecting that, so I don't understand why that's brought up so often.
It's Nintendo. You're not ever expecting that. Like, were people expecting the Wii U to be able to have the same games, or maybe I'm wrong and it can, but like have the same games that like the PS4 and the...
No, I mean they knew that they were either going to get older games released on it, or you'd have to make a game specifically for the Wii U. But this is the Switch. It's also a handheld, so that adds value to it. And I just think that I know that we talked about Grandia within the last few weeks here. Grandia 1 and 2 are also getting HD remasters done for it. Why can't the Switch just be that? Why can't it just be like, hey, we're going to release a game that's never been in handheld, it's never been in HD, and in some cases it's never been on a Nintendo console. So here we go. Speaking of which, they also they finally did the Nintendo Direct that they were supposed to have. They are releasing Final Fantasy 7, 9, and then 10 and 10-2 for the Switch also.
7? Wow.
7.
You gonna get that?
No.
7, Steven? It's Final Fantasy 7.
I own 7 like twice.
And you're still waiting on that remake. So
yeah, that's the next 7 game that I buy. Square Enix, get to work.
But I mean, it's still cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
Is it just me, or like it seems like Square Enix has been on fire lately, like just with good decisions? Because they also made Octopath Traveler, right?
But that was a risk. Well, that wasn't too much of a risk. I just feel like they gave that to a team that really wanted to make an old school style RPG, and they were blown away by how successful it was.
Well, like I feel like that, and I feel like this, and there was something else a while ago. I don't even maybe you remember.
Well, 15 came out to a lot of praise.
No, also. But like there's something we talked about a few weeks ago. I feel like where they were like also doing something. Maybe I'm crazy, but
I just keep thinking about how we'll never play Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay.
And then I get a very negative opinion of Square Enix in my head.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for reminding me.
They haven't redeemed themselves yet.
Not in my eyes. But it's weird though. You're getting 7, 9, 10, and the sequel 10-2. No 8.
Hey guys, you forgot a number.
What? and it also, well, here's something else too. 7 and 9 have and these same games have been remastered on the PlayStation 4. 8 you can get for your PlayStation 3 and your Vita and the PSP as a download for as a PS1 classic. It's just the PS1 game. Whereas I think the new versions of 7 and 9 have been like kind of like they've been given new features. They're not just the PS1 game running on like an emulation software. So I don't know why they haven't done that for 8.
Yeah,
8 was very successful, and it's only kind of like in somewhat recent years where a lot of people naysay it because apparently there are multiple ways to break the game and to like make it super easy, but you have to know exactly what to do, which there's tons of games that I feel like you can break games. So I don't see why 8 is not liked because of that.
Yeah, it's OCD people will not like having all of those on the Switch, and then it's like,
but no 8.
Yeah, that would bug me if I were like trying to go after all those.
And it would be nice to have a system that can play each and every Final Fantasy ever released.
Like to me, like you were saying earlier, how the Switch is never going to be able to compete with these current with the top generations.
It's getting Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition.
Oh,
which is like a cutesy version of Final Fantasy 15.
But like I just feel like all of that's like it's something that this given
and 12. I forgot they're also coming out with 12. Sorry, don't mean to keep interrupting you.
Lots and lots of Final Fantasy games for the Switch, but like just given that like it won't be able to meet the status quo of like the top performers, like it needs to. I think I see it as like it really needs to lean into this kind of thing, like just the more available to it that's not current but that people still really like. Just get more of that. And
how many years of back catalogs of games can we go into? And now it can be on a handheld.
Yeah.
Now it can be in HD, and it's never been on HD. And I feel like, and if you don't want, and I know the Switch games, the physical cards, the physical versions of those games are a bit pricier because the cards are not as simple to manufacture as like a Blu-ray disc, but release them digitally. And if that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have a bit of a storage problem with Switch, but if these are older games, you're not going to need that much storage anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think Square's making good decisions. I think that
all Final Fantasy VII aside.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are just like, no, those are Sony only versions, or those are Sony Final Fantasy games. They don't belong. It's like when people got mad that Cloud came to Smash Brothers. It's like, really?
Yeah.
I wish I had your problems. if you're complaining about that.
Wait, Cloud isn't Ike a Final Fantasy character?
No, Fire Emblem.
Oh, but isn't that like the same thing?
No.
Kind of?
No. Tactical RPG as opposed to a traditional
Dissidia.
RPG.
Wait, Dissidia. That's the one that's like kind of like Final Fantasy.
Dissidia is like a Final Fantasy arena fighter.
I thought like one of those was kind of like from that same universe. Are any of those three related at all?
Dissidia is related to Final Fantasy.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
You have a bunch of Final Fantasy characters.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's going to be... Oh, and you don't need the Game Boy Advance and the link cables. It's going to come with online multiplayer, and I assume also just couch multiplayer, so...
Yeah.
That'll be nice.